Dave Farah. Welcome to MMA Fix here on the Fight Network. On this episode, my co-host, ESPN Radio and Yahoo MMA writer Steve Cofield and I will give you our betting picks for the highly anticipated UFC 100 fight happening this Saturday, July 11th, featuring the heavyweight championship clash between Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir. Also, we'll check in with Frank Mir's longtime coach, Ken Hahn, and find out how prepared Frank is coming into this fight. Then I'll talk with the California kid, Uriah Faber, as he takes us through his last WEC featherweight fight with Mike Brown, as well as his contract negotiations with Zuffa. And finally, this past weekend, Howard Stern's sidekick Artie Lang hosted the Search for Miss Howard TV from the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in Las Vegas. The special will air on Howard TV on August 19th, but you can see the top 5 finalists right here. And now the latest MMA news. In UFC news, Louise Kane wants Rich Franklin. After earning a decision win over Vanderlei Silva in June, Rich Franklin is already in the sights of top light heavyweight contender Louise Kane. According to MMA Junkie, the Brazilian-American top team product wants his next fight to be against someone who would move him closer to a shot at the coveted light heavyweight crown held by Lyoto Machida. Grappling super fights are set for UFC Fan Expo 2009. As previously announced, 4 grappling super fights will take place on July 10th and 11th at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center in Las Vegas. In the first, Tough 8 cast member Vinny Magalhaes takes on an opponent that is yet to be determined. Meanwhile, Ulysses Gomez meets Shudo legend Rumio Sato. WEC featherweight contender Fredson Paxiao takes on Jeff Glover, and UFC lightweight Joe Stevenson meets Grappler's Quest titleist Bill Cooper. The weekend at the Expo will also include autograph opportunities, training sessions, and product demonstrations. The UFC scores a television deal in China. The Ultimate Fighting Championship has struck a deal to bring its product to one of the world's largest markets. The UFC will now air on Inner Mongolia Television, known as NMTV, in China. The channel, which is available in 80 million households, has the potential to reach 240 million viewers throughout all provinces of China. Shane Carwin versus Cain Velasquez is set for UFC 104. A heavyweight contest between top undefeated prospects Shane Carwin and Cain Velasquez will take place on October 24th at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Carwin is coming off a first-round knockout of Gabriel Gonzaga, while Velasquez is coming off a one-sided unanimous decision victory over Czech Congo. Mike Swick will face Martin Kampmann at UFC 103. Former middleweight prospects and now top welterweight contenders Mike Swick and Martin Kampmann are set to do battle on September 19th in Dallas, Texas. Swick, who is on a 4-fight winning streak, recently dispatched Ben Saunders via second-round TKO at UFC 99 in June, while Kampmann earned a hard-fought split decision triumph over former WEC title holder Carlos Condit at UFC Fight Night 18 in April. The bout will potentially determine the next challenger to the UFC Welterweight Championship currently held by George St. Pierre, who defends against Thiago Alves at UFC 100 this Saturday. Anthony Hardonk thwarts an attempted LA robbery. Last month in Los Angeles, UFC heavyweight competitor Anthony Hardonk was approached by 3 men who pulled out a homemade knife and attempted to take his wallet. Hardonk told the men that if they wanted his wallet, they would have to come and get it. The men had second thoughts and wisely left, but moved on to other individuals that were walking by. As the men attempted another robbery, Hardonk knocked over 2 of the men, but the third, who had a victim's wallet, took off running. Fortunately, the would-be thief dropped the wallet, which was recovered, and nobody got hurt. Hardonk says he has no regrets, but would consider cooperating if such an incident were to reoccur in the future. In Sengoku news, Kazuo Misaki faces an indefinite suspension. Pride veteran Kazuo Misaki, who was sentenced to 1 year in prison for injuring a police officer, has agreed to fight Kazuhira Nakamura at Sengoku 9th Battle on August 2nd for free. Misaki will not be paid for the bout and will no longer earn a title shot against current champ Jorge Santiago if he wins. Misaki's prison term was suspended for 3 years, and his punishment will extend to his MMA career, as the Japanese veteran will serve an indefinite suspension after fighting Nakamura. And finally, featherweight bouts complete Affliction Trilogy's fight card. 2 special featherweight attractions have been added to the HDNet portion of Affliction Trilogy on August 1st. Affliction vet Mark Hominick will meet former IFL standout Davidas Tarosavicius. Meanwhile, LC Davis will compete for Affliction for the second time when he clashes with recently unretired Javier Vasquez, who recorded an impressive victory at last weekend's Ultimate Chaos pay-per-view. Brett Cooper, who suffered a first-round knockout at the hands of Joaquim Spiritwolf on the Ultimate Chaos pay-per-view, has now been pulled off the Affliction lineup. For the MMA Fix, my name is Dave Farah alongside Steve Cofield. Thanks for joining us in studio again.
Glad to be here.
Steve, of course, from CageRider.com, where you can get a full breakdown of all the UFC fight cards. And now it's time for UFC 100 picks. This is the big one that everyone's been waiting for. Right now, when we're filming this, we're actually a little over a week out from the fights, but already you can start to feel the momentum build here in Las Vegas. The excitement's going, and people are doing some interesting things And I'm not talking about just the fans, like the sports books here in town. Let's start with that. Let's talk about how there is some different activity at sports books in a way that people can actually bet on the fights.
Well, there's going to be huge numbers in town, so it's a little unique as compared to most UFC events, which get good crowds, but 100's going to draw so many people, the Fan Expo, all the events. So what you're seeing is stuff that resembles more like the BCS championship game or the Super Bowl. Now, they're not going to have 250 proposition bets, but you're seeing more risk taken and creativity. So it's good to see. That kind of means the sport is becoming more mainstream if the books and the properties feel like they can take the chance on taking money on different aspects.
This is an interesting one. Of course, Frank Mir beat Brock Lesnar last time that they were out. In 90 seconds, he submitted him. But everyone refers to Brock Lesnar's bear maulings. Whenever he fights anyone, he just jumps right on top of them. And he's a very difficult guy to manage. The spread, once again, about the same as the other two fights we've talked about. Mir plus 190, Lesnar minus 250. So he's about a 2.5 to 1 favorite over Frank Mir right now. Do you like that spread?
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
I think right now the value is on Frank Mir as long as it doesn't go too low. But, I mean, breaking it down on both sides, if you want to start with Lesnar, huge positives with the power. He's going to be able to get Frank Mir to the ground. Now, here's the problem. Will he be a little more hesitant this time around because of what happened last time? It's funny, when you look back on what an awful mistake he made in that first fight, and I'm sure he got so much confidence in the first 60 seconds of the fight, I'm sure he lost his head a little bit. But the way he left his leg just sitting there for literally, it seemed like 7 seconds, easy to grab for a heel hook and had no idea how to get out of the submission. He's going to hesitate a little bit this time. I don't think he's going to run across and try to tackle Frank Mir, and he didn't against Randy Couture. He respected Randy Couture, so I think he respects Frank Mir. On the side of Frank Mir, I think he's more confident than he's ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, it is ridiculous. He's always been a good talker, but I don't know that he always believed what he said. The win against Nogueira is gigantic. He took a guy out boxing and never got in a position where they had to go strength against strength. He believes his boxing is a lot better. He's a lot bigger than you think. He's 6'3" and 255. Now he'll be outweighed by about 20 or 22 pounds on fight night. But the confidence in that fight, he thought he had no chance to win, and he schooled Nogueira, has him thinking sky high right now. And he just keeps building that thought that, you know what, this guy's not a mixed martial artist. I can beat him in any way. And I think he does have a lot of ways to beat him if he can stay off the mat.
Okay, let's take it back to the betting. Is there value on Frank Mir at plus 190?
To me, this is all about the number. So as long as it stays at 190, 200, Frank Mir's the bet. If it gets a little lower, if there suddenly becomes a lot of Frank Mir money coming in, then you have to look at Lesnar. So I know that's not a great answer. I'm going to pick right now Mir if the number is very healthy, and watch what happens. As the public comes in, then maybe they get wowed by the big guy. Maybe exposure gets out there where Frank Mir's talking so much trash and Lesnar's flipping out. It's going to be an interesting week to see where the money goes and how much money comes in. It's certainly going to set a record.
I think that the public is going to come in the favor of Brock Lesnar, meaning that his number is going to continue to drop a little bit as far as how much of a favorite that he is. That's going to increase. So bet on Frank Mir if Brock Lesnar becomes more of a favorite.
Right.
I think it's an exciting matchup. I can't actually wait for the fight to happen. But as far as picks go, when it comes to making money, I would say bet on Frank Mir.
I agree with you.
Okay, Steve Cofield, always nice to have you in studio. Of course, if you want to bet on the fights, go to MMAFix.com and bet there. But educate yourself first. Go to CageWriter.com. See this man's breakdowns. He knows what he's doing. I'm surprised that he doesn't own this place yet, how much money he makes betting on fights, right?
Absolutely. I'm buying it any day now.
MMAFix.com, once again, the place to bet. CageWriter.com is the place to go do your research. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks.
Dave Farrell alongside Steve Cofield. Thanks for watching MMA Fix.
Good right hand. No! Marty Weaver will find the mat. Wow. That was a nice right hand.
Hey everybody, I'm Denise Pernula for the MMA Fix on RawVegas.tv and the Fight Network. We are at Striking Unlimited today to talk to Frank Mir's head coach, Ken Hahn, to see how Mir is shaping up in the final week of training for UFC 100. You've been with Frank for a long time, since the beginning, and what has the journey been like to bring him to this point in his career?
It's been a long journey. I had to re-establish his whole work ethic, and his training. But I think you're going to see a totally different Frank now. He's probably going to be the biggest he's ever been, in the best shape. Everybody always questions his cardio, but he'll be there.
Yeah, a lot of people always comment that Frank either comes out in mint condition, ready to roll, or he comes out a little bit out of shape. How do you feel about those comments?
Oh, it's true. I mean, there's always got to be a little bit of truth to it. But, like I said, we reestablished his training. he's doing nothing but training now. And basically the biggest thing was switching from being a fighter or a martial artist. If you're a fighter, then you just train whenever your fight comes up. But a martial artist trains day in, day out, regardless if he has a fight or not. So he's in better shape now because of that mentality.
What has been the most difficult part in training Frank Mir to bring him to this point in his career?
The most difficult part is just, getting him to train like a champion. A lot of times in the beginning it was mostly his, he just had a gift, so everything came natural and talent, Now that he's 30, there's no more talent. He's got to put the effort in. And so now you're going to see a totally different Frank, more muscular, more athletic, better conditioned, because he's actually training like how a champion should be, instead of just, fight for fight with just, I'll train 8 weeks and be able to win.
We were all impressed with Frank tapping out Brock Lesnar in 1 minute, but how much more difficult do you see this fight being this time?
I wouldn't say it's more difficult. I think for Frank it's more about getting a place to showcase his ability. So since always, people are questioning, when Brock had him early with the punches, that they should have stopped the fight then, and I already addressed him in a street fight, you would have lost. Because basically you didn't have an answer for it. This time he's going to take it all the way out, get as much experience. Even with Nogueira, it was cut short, only the second round. And a lot of times, especially when you're developing technique, you need that whole round, 5 rounds, 3 rounds. The longer it goes, the more experience you get and the better you are. So this time we're going to actually show everybody by keeping it, as long as possible. We're not going to try to kill him too early. And this time, we're not going to let him go. We're going to break something.
So that's how you see it playing out?
Either breaking or knockout, but we're not going to do any judge's decision.
What do you think it will take to pull a win in this fight?
I think Frank just needs to stay relaxed and not wait or not look for the knockout, and just have fun out there, and it'll come. So as long as he has fun and relaxes, you'll see a really good fight.
Because he is prepared.
Because he's prepared. He basically has an answer for every single situation. And that's what happens is when you don't have an answer and you're thinking and you're double guessing and you're thinking, did I train enough? Or do I have an answer for this move? Do I have an answer for this move? That's what Brock has to worry about. Because Brock has to get better at stand-up and he has to get better at ground and together. And he can't focus on one more than the other. So really, Frank has a lot more, chances of winning just because he's been fighting for a long time. And he's got the disciplines of both stand-up and ground. Brock only has 3 fights. So, how can you get that much knowledge? You can't, not that quick.
What is it like being in Frank's corner?
I think, for me, since I fought before, I always thought, what happens when I stop fighting, but it feels the same way. I feel nervous. I feel, anxious for him. So it's the same thing. I've never stopped. A lot of stress, but, it's more, it's up to him. When the gate closes, I'm not the one inside there. He is.
What has been the biggest challenge preparing for this fight?
That's an interesting question. Let's see. I'd say the fact that sometimes people get injured, trying to make sure we get the training partners we need. So for Frank, I make sure he gets wrestlers that are from the Olympics or Olympic level, Muay Thai kickboxers that are pro level, K1 hopefully level, getting jiu-jitsu guys that are big and that are good. Basically, if I can put Frank in a situation where he's always losing, he'll win. That's hard because a lot of guys don't want to be in a losing situation, especially if they're that famous. They're like, well, why? I'm the champ. Why should I be subjected to situations where it's going to make me look bad?
Make him tougher.
And that's the biggest thing. Yeah, is people don't want to do that. If you can, you'll go a lot farther.
What will this be like if he wins for you?
Basically, for me, I was a world champion, so the biggest thing is to be able to create a world champion, right? It's one to become one, but to build one is another thing. So that's another goal in my life. When I turned 30, I had one goal is to make something famous for myself, and that was winning the world title. Now, before I make 40, which is 2 years away, I got to produce a champion, and then, it kind of completes my whole role, because as a trainer, if you didn't produce a champion, then who are you? You know what I mean? And then if you are also a world champion, it even puts you up there even more. So I've experienced what it takes to become a world champion. So when I produce one, it's easier. I can tell them, I did this. That's why you need to do it. Whereas a lot of trainers, maybe they didn't even fight. How can you tell them to do it if you've never even fought?
Right. So what if he loses? What is that for you?
If he loses, start again.
Keep trying. Got 2 more years.
Because, he's still in his prime, and if he does lose, it's 1-1, right? They still got to let him fight again because they're letting Brock fight again, and he lost to Frank. So I don't see it. I don't think he'll lose, but if he does, still have another chance.
Stephan Bonner has been training in this gym too. How's he looking for his fight against Coleman?
He's an athlete. He's going to have the endurance, and I think that's the biggest thing. With someone like Coleman, he has so much experience from fighting around the world, but he's still the older generation. Bonner's the newer generation. So I really think I'm going to give it to the younger generation because they have more to get. They have so much of the training that basically all the training that we've laid down, they had the ability to take advantage of. Whereas someone like Coleman, he's the pioneer. So, he had to figure it out for himself. Whereas guys like Bonner and Griffin, now they have the training. Here you go. Take it. It's there. Whereas when Coleman was starting, he had to look for it and search for it and find out if it worked or if it didn't work. So he also paid the price of getting beat up by all these other guys, where Bonner, I think, will definitely have the edge.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We will all be watching. This is the most anticipated fight, and we're all looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Good luck.
All right.
For RawVegas.tv and the MMA Fix, my name's Dave Farah, alongside the California Kid, Uriah Faber, who's in Las Vegas for like 2 hours?
Yeah, a couple hours here, just chilling.
How you doing, man? I mean, your hands are all busted up still. You had kind of a rough fight last time.
I feel good, man. I put in my all in that fight, so I feel good about it. I faced some adversity and still fought through, so I can't complain, I guess.
It was probably the craziest fight that I've ever seen, knowing that you broke your hand in the second round, and the commentators picked up on it too, so
yeah.
The entire audience is watching it from the perspective that you'd busted your hand. How intense was it actually being in that fight, though?
Well, I actually busted the first round. A minute left in the first round. I hit him in the top of the head and kind of put him to a knee for a second, and then realized it was done. But the second round was the most frustrating and kind of like the most frantic. And then after I got past that, I was like, you know what? I just have to get creative. So third round, I dislocated my thumb, and so then I had 2 beat up hands, and it was frustrating, but it was good experience for me. I learned a lot and have a great fight to watch.
How did you deal with the pain?
You only go to the spot where you're fighting a couple times in your life, and it's been 25 for me now, and aside from the 1 or 2 I've been out on the street, and you just kind of accept that you're going to keep going. So pain, I could feel the bones rubbing together, and it was weird, but I was just trying to fight in there.
There was a moment at the end of the 5th round, I think, where you had him locked up, and if your hands were in good enough shape, you probably could have submitted him. How frustrating was it for knowing knowing that you were very limited in your tools at that point?
The whole fight was frustrating for me, and watching it, knowing myself, how my expressions and remembering what was going through my head, the fight was extremely frustrating for me. My right hand was my best weapon, in grappling, also in the striking. So, man, it was rough. But like I said, I had to just get creative in there and had to dig deep and go for it, and I did.
Mike Brown's a tough guy, but this is 2 in a row now. What do you do next?
I just got to heal up. I've got 1 fight left in the WEC, and looking forward to re-signing with those guys and having a long career with them, hopefully. And
I read an interview with you the other day where you were talking about the WEC, and there was some pay issues, and the WEC got you early on, which always benefits the organization more than it benefits the fighter. But you're a very popular, marketable guy, so you could pretty much go anywhere in the world and fight. Is there talks with anyone else? Are you thinking about crossing the street?
I'd prefer not to. I think that it's obvious that I've got a fan base and that I can make money for them, and I just like to be taken care of. And they're not unreasonable, I don't think, but we'll find out when it comes to negotiations, and we'll just have to see. And I'm not sure what interview it is, but I definitely feel like MMA in general is underpaid, and there needs to be some more competition. But until then, I'm just going to keep plugging away.
I know there's a lot of backroom bonuses and things like that, but your base pay for your last fight was about $25,000. And I look at, say, Rashad Evans, whose last fight he got paid $250,000.
Right.
Do you think that that's a fair scale, though?
No, I definitely don't think it's a fair scale. And the biggest difference is, and the hardest thing for me to communicate with Zuffa is they say that this is a different company than UFC, so they have to do this and that and the other thing because of they're separate companies, but really Zuffa's the overhead owner. So we need to do pay-per-view shows. That's how guys are really getting paid, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, they say it's a different company, but obviously there's still that UFC money sitting there, right?
No, yeah, I know. I had a meeting with Dana and Lorenzo, and they're explaining that to me, and I was like, well, you guys could always just talk to the owners, and see if they can maybe pull some strings.
Sure.
And, I've got my message across, and they're reasonable people, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, if not the WEC, why didn't you just go, well, put me in the UFC? Why don't you form a division over there or move up a weight class?
Well, if I were the one making those calls, maybe I'd do that, I could certainly make a case for it, but, I'm basically at the will of these guys right now, and they hold the ball in the court, and I'm just kind of trying to play. So. Well,
I will say that I do like you in the WEC, though, because they do a very nice job with the production. Zuffa knows exactly what they're doing when it comes to promoting mixed martial arts. So if you can get paid a little bit better, I think that you could be the poster boy for that organization for as long as it's around.
Right, yeah, and I'd like that to be the case, as long as they're looking at me as an investment and not, an expense. And, I've done my part, done countless interviews and gone above and beyond with the PR and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll get appreciated.
Let's take it back to Mike Brown for a second. Do you think that if you hadn't broken your hand and dislocated your thumb on your other hand that you could have beaten him in that fight?
Oh, definitely. As a fighter in general, I think that I could always beat anyone, and it's my losses have been few and far between, and in most cases it's been my own fault, and I know that I have the tools to beat Mike Brown, and not take anything away from him. He obviously has the tools to beat me. He's done it twice now, so I think it would have been a whole different story with my hand not broken. I know it would have been, but you can't say exactly what would have happened. I can't read the future or the past or anything. You just keep living, man, and keep fighting.
I know that you're working hard, man. I follow you on Twitter, and you're always in some sort of business deal or pushing your clothing line or working with your boys in Sacramento trying to grow the brand. But tell us a little bit about what you're working on now and what's getting you excited as far as Uriah Faber brands go.
I've got the Alpha Male brand that I've just started to push. I actually started in 2004, got a cease and desist from a guy in Arizona, and just recently got the name back. I'm also working on a project with some fine art photography with my friend Sam Hahn. I'm working on some reality show stuff, just talking with producers, and there's been a lot of talks, nothing in concrete yet, but doing a little bit of that. I've got my gyms back home at Ultimate Fitness and UriahFaber.com, and actually working on a book too, but I just do that kind of in my spare time, over the years, and it's starting to kind of come to fruition, and there's all sorts of stuff. I'm a guy that's been juggling a lot of balls ever since I was in junior high school, being a scholar athlete and having a family and relationships. So I'm just used to being busy, man. And especially now, not being able to work out all day, I've got all sorts of stuff going through my head.
I follow you on Twitter, and I noticed that you were hanging out with BJ Penn, and you guys are actually a lot closer than I thought. You guys train together, you help each other out, you're buddies. Is that weird, working with somebody that's so close in weight to you that hypothetically one day you could even fight if the UFC and WEC ever did like a cross promotion?
It's not strange for me. BJ is one of the cooler guys in the sport, and I don't think he'd have a problem punching me in the face in any circumstance, So we'd have no trouble laying it on the line against each other, and we've trained together a couple times. I trained with him for a couple weeks in Hawaii for his Shirk fight, and I was just out there kind of hanging out. Actually did that photo shoot with him there, and he and I could fight. It'd be fine, no problem.
You think he's got a shot against Florian, or you think he's going to own him?
I wouldn't ever count Florian out. Florian's extremely talented. He's one of those guys that does what it takes in the sport, and that's constantly progressing, having a disciplined lifestyle, probably a little bit more than BJ as far as the discipline goes, and progressing in the game. But BJ's got the mental game down, so he's extremely talented in some pretty unique ways, and he's got the mental game down pat. And a lot of times that's the biggest factor is the mental game. So both are mentally tough. Both are talented guys. I would give BJ the slight edge, though.
All right, let's bring it back to Uriah Faber to close us out here. When is this all going to be healed up? When can we expect a full recovery?
Man, I've been doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I've got like a bone growth stimulator that I plug in that bad dog right there, and I'm doing the hyperbaric chamber that, I sit in there like the old Michael Jackson stuff. Rest in peace, Michael. Love you, buddy. And kind of. and then I've been doing rehab already. I've been doing, physical therapy at Results in Sacramento. Working on my legs, going to keep progressing and staying in shape and be ready to rock. So as soon as I'm ready to go, I'm going to put my hands on somebody and win.
You're like RoboCop, man. You got things that you plug into your cast?
That's right. Yeah. They spare no expense, trying to get me back in there. And, Zuffa takes good care of that. They've taken care of all my bills and stuff like that. So on that side, I can't complain. And, I've got my steel plates in here, so hopefully it's stronger than ever. And my thumb will be back soon, hopefully, because it's irritating. But, I'm ready to rock. Let's do it.
One of the most entertaining guys to follow on Twitter and definitely one of everyone's favorite fighters. Uriah, thanks for talking to us, man.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Dave Farah alongside the California Kid. Thanks for watching the MMA Fix.
Good. Tell her I'm not going to stop. I'm going to win. Now you're my enemy. Only 5 of you going to go to Thailand.
Finally, we bring you the search for Miss Howard TV, hosted by Artie Lang. The show will air in August on Howard TV, and we bring you the sexy finalists.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah Bauer with RawVegas.tv. We're here at the Beach Club at the Hard Rock where Artie Lang from the Howard Stern Show is searching for the next Miss Howard TV.
All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to narrow them down to the final 5. Then we'll go to 2, then we'll get the new Miss Howard TV.
All right, we're here with Carissa and Tan. They're 2 of our contestants here. Now, I got to tell you, they're looking pretty hot right now. Tell me, Carissa, what do you think your best asset is?
I try to make it all the above.
Wow, okay, I can see that. All right, what about you, Tan? What do you think you got going that all the other girls don't?
I don't know, just personality, I guess, and smile.
Come on, girl, you're in a bathing suit like that. You got more than personality. Tell me your best physical asset.
Yeah. You have a talent?
I absolutely have no talent.
You have a talent. I bet you give a good massage.
Come on, you can do better than that.
Look at you, you're Asian. You're Asian.
Come on, you can do better than that.
Can you do laundry?
I can.
We're here with Lee and Megan. I think we got our wild child right here, so we can't wait to see what she brings to the table.
Not bad.
Very nice, very nice. Whoa.
Well, so far she's ahead.
So you guys totally psyched to be the next Miss Howard TV?
Absolutely.
What do you think is your best physical asset?
Do you have a talent?
No, I just like to rub my boobs.
You just like to rub your boobs? Well, that's fine with me. All right.
So what would you consider your best asset that Howard would like?
Well,
physical. Come on, girl, just shake and show me.
Only my fake highlights today.
What's your talent? Picking out the ugliest hat of all time? You have a bruise there. Are you still not listening to your black husband? All right, now that we've seen their talent.
Yeah, a lot of good talent.
We're going to narrow it down to 5. You're one of them, sweetie. You're one.
You're in.
You're one. Ronnie, pick out a couple.
Number 2. Artie, you got the last one. That's all. Artie's got the last one.
For interestingness, all right. Thanks, girls. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, girls.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of MMA Fix. I'm Dave Farah from RawVegas.tv and the Fight Network. Thank you for watching and have a good night.
following program contains scenes of violence. Viewer discretion is advised.